Hey, what's up guys, Topic here, and today I'm going to be looking at the Lumix 12-35mm f2.8 lens, which is a great super sharp lens, but it does come at a bit of a steep price, so let's check it out. So I've been using this lens for a couple of months now, and I initially got it after I borrowed a friend's camera with this lens on it, tried it out, and really liked the lens, so I thought might as well get it, and it has the features that I was looking for at the time, which are a lower aperture as well as a wider angle lens. Although this lens gave me what I wanted at the moment, it does have some features in it that I think could be improved and made better in time, or that other lenses offer better. But first, let me go over what this lens has to offer. Like I said, this is a 12-35mm lens, but because it's meant for micro four thirds cameras, which have a 2x crop ratio compared to the standard 35mm lenses, that means that the 12-35 is actually more like a 24-70mm lens, which is a very common lens length, but it does mean that it's not quite as wide as it might sound with that 12mm name. And also having it only go to 35mm means that at 70mm it's not that much zoom. So it does have a bit of zoom from being wide angle to zoomed in, but it is primarily a wide angle lens. You're not really going to be getting any nice telephoto shots with this lens. And the second reason I bought this lens was because of the aperture. Now this lens has an aperture of 2.8, which is relatively wide open, but it has this aperture throughout the entire range of focal length. So all the way from 12 to 35, you can have an aperture of 2.8, which is a great advantage that many cameras don't have, and that's the main thing that you're paying for with this lens. Having a constant aperture will always make your lens more expensive, but it's really nice because if you're zooming in with your lens from that 12 to 35mm zoom, basically the light and colors aren't going to change depending on the aperture closing in or coming out. It's going to stay consistent. So all the way through that zoom range, the brightness is going to stay exactly the same, and that's a really nice thing to have. But here's the thing, given the specifications I just gave you about this lens, which is the 12 to 35mm zoom range, as well as the f2.8 aperture, it's really not that different of a lens from the kit starter lens that comes with almost every Lumix camera. Now this lens has a zoom range from 14 to 42mm, as well as an aperture from 3.5 to 5.6, and that might seem a little bit different, but it's very, very close to this lens right here. So really, for the kit lens, you're really not getting that big of a difference between these two lenses, even though this one you can buy extremely cheap, and this one costs about $800. Obviously there are some differences between these two, but it is just interesting to see how one is pretty similar to the other despite the price difference. And depending on the versatility you want, this little kit lens is even much smaller and lighter than this other lens because it has less glass. It definitely feels cheaper in its build quality, but it is a very nice, versatile, and small lens that you can bring basically everywhere, and I've used for a lot of years and it hasn't broken down. That is just something to keep in mind when you're thinking about buying this lens. There is this other option which basically has a lot of the same features. But anyway, with that aside, let's get back to the 12 to 35mm lens. Now this lens is very clearly heavier because it is higher quality, and there are a lot of glass elements inside that make it have beautiful lens flares, as well as just a really high quality and sharp image that you should expect from a lens like this. It has lots of coating on all the glass, just making it perform very well. The lens also claims to be water and dust resistant, which I can back up because this kind of fell inside of my backpack in a creek and got a little bit wet and is completely fine now. So that's just something that's good to know about your lens. You can bring it into rainy places and you're not going to have to worry about it getting destroyed instantly, at least. Also, the zoom and focus throws on this lens are very nice and smooth, and you can adjust what you want very easily, and I like that a lot about it. It's much smoother than other lenses, and I like how it works. Another great selling point about this lens is the power optical image stabilization, which works excellent. Basically, when it's connected to your camera, it uses electronics to be able to stabilize the image, and it helps remove a lot of those little jitters you're going to find on lenses without this feature. So it just helps to smooth out your image a lot better. For the image stabilization, it also has an on and off, but I'm not really sure why you would ever want to turn it off because it works so well on the on setting. It doesn't crop into your image at all, so I would just leave it on. This lens doesn't have the widest angle or the shallowest aperture, but it is a great workhorse that will help you get shots in like 90% of situations that you're going to need. It's not an absolutely perfect lens, but then again, no lens ever is. So I would highly recommend this lens if you want to step up your game from a kit lens and start getting a little bit more shallow depth of field, as well as a wider angle of view for videos or photos or really anything. I would recommend this lens despite the higher price point, but if you don't have the money, just get creative with that kit lens and you can get some very similar shots. Anyway, that's it for today. If you like this video, be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.